Talk about DC level 3 charging solution considerations, how to think about what's best for your business. So let's just go through the factors really quickly. The first one is market development. How has the industry evolved and why does that matter to you? Second is power modularity. This is the newest technology that's coming out. How to think about power modularity for your business. Is it right for you? Speed isn't king. So don't always think that faster is better. There's actually a lot of negatives to faster. So what is the right version for you based on your business circumstances? Simultaneous charging. You would think that 2 cords in a charger would be better, but it's not always better. Why is that? We'll talk about it. Next is the NACS transition and add-ons. So the industry just went from what's called a CCS cable to the NACS cable as the standard. Think about it like Apple devices going from the Lightning port to USB-C. What does that mean for the investments that you're making and how do you have to take it into account? Next is add-ons. A lot of these fast chargers, when you buy them, they're like a menu of different things. And the reality is like most companies will just sell you whatever you check off on the menu, but they don't all work together. There's a lot of considerations to take into account. How do you do that? Next, safety. This is a Walmart supercenter or several Walmart supercenters of power in your hand. And so safety is paramount. What should you be taking into account? And these stations, they're powerful. And so naturally, they break more than level 2 stations. So from a support and maintenance perspective, what should you be doing? So on the right side, I just put our company logo because this is something that we constantly educate customers about, and I just wanted to be able to say that. ChargePoint and Blink were the universal networks to start. ChargePoint builds all their own equipment. Blink has their own network, but they white label the hardware. In many cases, they white labeled ABB. ABB was probably the prominent DC charging player from 2010 to 2020. But by far, the most charging, the best charging experience has always been Tesla superchargers. From 2020 to 2025, this is when you got significantly more order of magnitude players in the charging space. There were so many, I just decided not to add them into the slide. But today, there are so many options, and I would say where the industry was at probably their version 1 version of all these chargers, that was more of like a PC from 1990. Everyone's hitting their version 2, version 3 chargers, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to think about what those chargers do. So power modularity. Generation 1 of charging was where the power sat in the charging station. It's called monolithic. So you can't send the power anywhere else. It's whatever vehicle is plugged into that charger, it can take up to that speed. Then Tesla came out with what was called a version 2 supercharger. It was where they took 2 charging stations, but they paired them. So the power from one station could go to a second station and charge the vehicle using that second station twice as fast. Why was that revolutionary, let's call it, at the time? Because the reality is chargers are only being used 5 to just 10% of the time. So if you can double the charging speed for 90 to 95% of the time, that's awesome. You're essentially giving the best experience possible and improving the efficiency of the power that exists on site. The next version of that, though, that's more modular, Tesla calls it their combined, they do this on version 3 and version 4. But many other companies have also done it to their new platforms as well. ChargePoint as a platform, Power as a platform, BTC. I could go down the list. Think about it like a spider. The power is the body of the spider. It's taking a certain amount of power and it's sending it to the legs of the spider, which is the different charging stations that might be on a property. So at a public fast charging location, it's pretty easy. You see them all kind of lined up here. And the reality is you can preserve the best possible experience when there's less people at the charger because you can give that single car a higher speed, a higher percentage of the time, which is awesome. But then you think like a car dealership where you have service, inventory, pre-delivery inspection. Maybe you do have public charging stations there, whatever the case may be. Essentially, in a smart way, you can distribute power to different areas and prioritize power to certain locations at the facility to provide the optimal experience. And instead of in a monolithic situation where maybe you want a 400 kilowatt experience, you have to get 400 kilowatt experiences. With a modular solution, you can get 4 cords, 4 connectors, and then you can just get one set of 400 kilowatts and you can share that power distributed amongst the 4 stations that are only being used 10% of the time, which means 90% no one can even tell the difference. and it's going to lower the cost of the charging station. It's going to lower the cost of the capital investments that are needed with the electric utility to support that experience. Next, speed is not always king. So where is it not king? At your house, you don't need speed. Generally at your workplace, unless it's a fleet circumstance. Where you need faster charging is, again, maybe like a car dealership where you're doing higher volume, or definitely public fast charging. You certainly need higher power at certain times. But the truth that no one really talks about is this: the more power you use, the significantly higher your electric costs. So you're incentivized to manage your power to whatever you need so that your electric bill ultimately becomes lower. That's something that EV Ready is an expert in and can certainly assist anybody should they want more information about that piece. But you want to right size the amount of power you're using at any fast charging location. And then last, the DC charging gotchas. So first, let's start here. In 2010 to 2020, there were two standards. It was the CHAdeMO plug, which is what the Asian automotive manufacturers used, and then the CCS plug, which is what the North American and European manufacturers used. In 2023, Ford made an announcement with Tesla that they were going to use what Tesla's plug is, which is called a NACS connector. And very quickly, the rest of the industry followed. And so there are some challenges with that. A lot of these fast charging stations can't actually replace cables. And so when you're buying a charger, you want to understand the engineering circumstances around cable replaceability and customer experience. From a cable replaceability perspective, I would say 80% of fast chargers cannot replace a cable. And I've spoken with several fast charging companies who don't even have the NACS connector available yet. And so what does that look like? You don't want to be sold a station that doesn't have a NACS connector and can't switch to it. And you want to understand the cost of switching to it if it can. So that's one really, really important piece that's kind of happening right now. It's all about driver experience with fast chargers. There's a lot of challenging fast charging experiences out there. So what should people take into account? I'm going to use these pictures to talk about what I think is most important. This top one, this EVgo station up here, I've used one of these stations before. Here's the challenge. And again, this isn't really about EVgo, and this isn't about this station. This is just a characteristic to take into consideration. These cables, they're thick and they're heavy. And when these chargers are placed in the middle of two parking spaces, every vehicle has a different place as to where that vehicle is going to plug in. Now you can see this Nissan Leaf has a very convenient spot, but some vehicles have the port on this side of the car over here where you really have to extend that heavy cable. Some of them are in the back of the car. What's that heavy cable experience like? In addition, some of the stations have cable retractors and they're plastic, but you have to make sure they don't scratch the top of your car as they're going over the top of your vehicle. The experience and how it was designed can be really challenging. It's not apples to apples when you're going to look at two different fast chargers. One company that does have a really good cable retraction system is ChargePoint for simultaneous charging. And there are other companies as well. I was really impressed recently with a BTC unit that I used, and I thought they had a great cable retraction system. At the bottom there, you can see that the manuals that these fast chargers come with have started to define how many feet the cable can be retracted so that whoever's defining their business need can make sure that the vehicles that they're going to charge can handle that circumstance. At the bottom right, I wanted to show a charger here. I think this is a funny picture because it is a fast charger with no cable retraction, and you can see the hose so perfectly in that green section of grass. The reality is that never happens, and you need cable retraction on your fast charging unit. You don't want a high-powered piece of equipment, a cord, in the ground in the snow or in the hot with cars driving around. Like, don't mess with this circumstance. Have a great experience for the fast charging solution that is both safe with a cable retraction kit that will make it easy to plug in the EV charger for anybody. These stations break a lot more, and they're expensive to break. The power modules inside of what power these stations, they tend to cost $7,000 to $15,000 or so when they break. And so understanding that power module solution, how it's supported, how much it costs when you're buying your station, I find to be really helpful when we're talking to customers. And procurement optionality. So purposefully, there's something right here at the bottom where you can see all of these different line items. There are so many factors in the decision tree as to what you should check off here to make sure that you provide yourself the correct solution. It's critical to have an expert that you're working with. And the last piece, today, there are charging stations that are being sold in the marketplace that have reached end of life, that when they break once, you won't be able to fix. And it's generally not discussed. Make sure that whatever charging stations you're getting, that you understand all of the different ways that you can fix, and ensuring that it's going to have an extended life cycle. I would say 10 years should be your expectation.